conversations. Let's have real conversations.
Get ready to stir it up.
Life events and everything in between. Let's go.
Get ready to stir it up.
No capping. If guests got you covered right up.
Get ready to stir it up. Stir it up.
Come on.
Get ready to stir it up.
Welcome to Stir It Up. So this is a season that was being brought to you from Nairobi. And then, just this week, Seth called. And Seth said, we're doing the Wholesome Mind Summit. And we want to talk about it on Stir It Up. But what's interesting is, last week on set, two of the guys had said, oh, this is going to be one of the very few seasons that Seth is not featuring in. And guess what? Like a snake that never dies. He's shown up, he's found a way. Because he doesn't even know this conversation happened. So Seth and Lady Anne, welcome.
Thank you.
Back.
We're back. And it's always good to have you.
Same here.
We're going to be talking about the Wholesome Mind Summit, and you will tell us what it's all about. In this conversation, we're going to start from the beginning. The beginning. So I will start with you, Lady Anne. Maybe you do a very quick introduction of yourself, just to give people context of who you are, and then launch into where all of this began. Would that be a good place to start?
I think so.
Let's go.
So I'm Lady Anne Isuman. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and I'm a corporate and commercial lawyer. And I am a passionate advocate for mental health. And it is because a few years ago, a family member went through a condition. In fact, we didn't know about this condition, and she had been suffering it for 20 years. It took Dr. Seth, who was counseling another family member for about 3 years. And through their conversations, he thought that, maybe there's something wrong with this other family member that we are not identifying. And so we shouldn't think that she's just difficult and, you can never get along with her. Let's see how we can get somebody into the house to assess her. So fast forward 3 years after that, Dr. Seth put us in touch with a psychiatrist who went home and did an assessment of her and had another doctor go and do another assessment of her. And she was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. And now we had the diagnosis. How to treat her was another thing. So we went through a very painful ordeal of having to get a court order for involuntary treatment assessment, which meant that we had to get the hospital to come home and induce her and take her to the hospital. And going through that ordeal, I don't think that you'd wish it on your worst enemy. We had family members standing by crying because this is somebody who doesn't have insight of her condition. And she's having to be taken to an institution to get better. And it's because we want the best for her. But she didn't understand it. But we were, just before we took her in, we actually prayed. And I think through that prayer, we had the right people taking care of her throughout the entire stage into the hospital, and we were at Kolibu for 2 weeks. Now, every day going to Kolibu and seeing the different situations, different conditions and people who are being taken care of there, I thought that, man, there's some insight that our country needs when it comes to mental health awareness. Because there's a difference between mental health and mental illness. And the reason she was diagnosed with that condition was because she had not dealt with stress over years. And imagine what stress can do to you. You can get diagnosed with a condition after years if you haven't dealt with your stress properly. So I thought that, if there's a way I can give back to my community, then I had to do some CSR through my firm to promote mental health awareness, to educate people on the difference between mental health and mental illness, to try to promote policy generation, and to allow the community to understand what the Mental Health Act says and how to use it to the benefit of our sick brothers and sisters with any conditions that they have. So really that's a bit of a background to the Wholesome Mind.
Thank you. As you were talking, there's something that piqued my interest. And I'll go to Seth and I'll come back to you. Seth, you know, we've often talked about how one can receive therapy through another. Do you want to share a thought on that? Just the idea that sometimes your partner or your friend or someone you have a strong relationship with might not want to go to therapy with you. And you can learn the tools in therapy to be able to support someone who is in your family or your equal, whether it's a parent and so on, to navigate that relationship and enrich that relationship.
Absolutely. And there are multiple levels to even to look at that.
Yeah.
The reality of the human mind is that we have what we call mirror neurons. And what mirror neurons do is that they're the reason why if you smile, I'm likely to smile back. And if you frown, I'm likely to frown back. So we say that moods are contagious. Now, if we have a challenge, therapy will try to address this challenge for both of us. But the reality is everybody's going to have to change in one way or another. Now, you can enjoy somebody's well-being by observing them or by listening to their story. And that story becomes a motivation for you to also make some kind of change. Now, I have always maintained that the best way to be attractive in any circle, whether it's romantic, career, personal, is to first be content with yourself, which is that happiness that you exude typically makes people want to get closer and closer to you. And you know, I've said this so many times, and it comes back to the same thing. Because moods are contagious, well-being is also a contagious a contagious construct that if I am happy for someone or I can see that they are thriving, there's a joy I feel within myself. Now, it might be surprising to many people to know that one of the ways to manage stress is to do acts of kindness for other people.
Yes.
Because by seeing them get excited, it translates to you also. So as for that concept of therapy, human beings are also hardwired to connect, and that connection is usually exemplified through these acts of kindness. That seems to create a Bluetooth environment for people to connect.
Bluetooth paired.
Ready to pair.
Thank you for sharing that. So coming back to you, Lady Anne, as you described the experience, being someone who's also dealt with family that have had different degrees of both mental illness and mental health challenges, right? What was your experience like watching someone that a family member, struggle with that?
So, you know what is interesting is in going through the process, I found some strength and felt like I needed to carry everyone along.
Okay.
And I didn't get the chance to actually sit back and go through the emotions of what was happening because I had to take care of the family, take care of the office, and still go to the hospital, you know. And you have other family members who are trying, it's more difficult for them to deal with the situation. And of course, you have the other people who are in denial and, you know, because of the culture that we are in, oh, don't do it, there's nothing wrong. Oh, you shouldn't say that. Oh, why are you, going through all of it? So it was a mix of things I was dealing with. So I actually never had a chance to sit back and assess my own emotions, you know, and I think I did learn that through the process, it was important to understand my own well-being and take care of myself.
Okay.
Yes. And through that, I have been more intentional about taking care of myself because I am younger and I have children. And I want to make sure that I'm learning the right thing, to teach them the right thing, so that we can cultivate a generation that knows better.
Okay. So it's almost that like you went into overdrive.
Yes.
So let's solve this, right?
Yes.
Rather than sitting there and
Yes.
going through it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's
Yes.
interesting.
Yes.
Seth, coming to you around mental illness and mental health, what are some of the common misconceptions out there?
I don't even know where to start.
So let me give you a number. Let's do three. Three of the most common misconceptions that you find.
So from a mental health professional standpoint, I think one big misconception is that people who have mental health challenges or people who have mental illness are dangerous people. It's just a misconception. The way they see the world is different from the way you see the world. And most of the time, what we try to do is that we try to put the way we see the world in their mind to say, this is how it should be. But during that moment, they're in an altered state of reality. And if you're looking at someone who is aggressive, the trigger is that you're basically telling me that what I'm experiencing does not exist, it's not real. So they're not aggressive. That's one thing. Sometimes people also have this misconception that when it comes to mental health related challenges, the treatment should be likened to other physical conditions. And I'll be very specific. So people who have mental health challenges, they come and see our professionals, they are put on medication, they start to get better and they stop taking their medication. They look at it like a malaria.
Okay.
So once you start to feel better, you stop. But today, what I want to throw out is, these are lifestyle-related disorders. So just like when someone has a diabetes and has to take a pill to maintain their insulin levels, or that they have hypertension, that they have to take medication consistently, many mental health conditions are managed. So you need to be on medication or treatment consistently in order to get the best outcome. And then, not all mental health related challenges are spiritual. It's another thing I'd want to say. And I will point out...
But are some?
Well,
Because you've done quite a bit of research on that.
I mean, because of where I sit in my research with faith healers, I'm inclined to say there actually there's evidence that, well, sometimes we are not able to make meaning out of it. And there are sometimes we've had people who use spiritual interventions to heal people. So then that makes me say, well, there's a possibility. But within my scope of reference, as someone who practices as a psychologist, and I operate within the, let me say, the biomedical paradigm or biopsychosocial paradigm, what I can explain is that sometimes when you don't know, you're likely to say it's spiritual. And I'm giving you a very classic example. When your mind is struggling, it can't tell you that it's struggling like the body. The body can communicate very quickly, I'm struggling. How does it do this? You feel pain, you feel weakness. And that's to tell you, do something about it. Now, the mind tends to pile on all the things that it struggles with. And when it can no longer deal with it, it goes to the body and says, I want to borrow your resources to tell this person that I'm struggling. So anybody who can relate to this, you've been to the hospital, you've done several tests, they say you are fine. And yet there's this pain you feel, there's this something you're going through. Now, quickly, the explanation might be it's spiritual. But I also want to throw out that it could be what we call psychosomatic. So it's a physical manifestation of an emotional or psychological challenge. So not all of them are spiritual. And in any case, with all the people I've worked with, they'll tell you, even the spiritual healers tell you that when the spiritual aspect has been taken care of, the physical aspect needs to be taken care of as well. So,
Growing up, very often, anytime you saw someone with mental illness, we went straight to, oh, the person must have been doing drugs. And as we are getting older, we are realizing that that is not always the case. Growing up, there was always the investigation we did into families. You would hear that you needed to go, to understand. But as we're getting older, we're realizing that most families do have someone who struggled with their mental well-being or has experienced some kind of mental illness at some point in time. There's also the element of behaviors and patterns that we see with people, everyday people who are in our workplaces, who are in our churches, and we say, oh, this person, is a bit inconsiderate, or they're a bit erratic. And we never really think about it. But as you begin to be a bit more aware or understand mental, health or mental illness, you realize, this might not necessarily be just that, right? But we always mix the two up. We don't always have a clear distinction between what mental health is and what mental illness is. Do you want to share? Do you want to explain what those
Absolutely,
two are?
and thank you so much for asking this question, because I think it's a key element for us to destigmatize this field. Now, mental health is a state, just like physical health. Everybody has mental health. Everybody has physical health. Now, I'd like you to think about mental health and physical health like a ladder. Now, there are things you can do that allows you to climb up that ladder. So in physical health, exercising will help you climb up that ladder. Poor sleep will help you, go down that ladder. I'm using the word help, but I'm just only being sarcastic. And mental health is the same thing. Now, when we talk about mental illness, what I want you to focus on is when you have gone down that ladder to the bottom and below the climbing stairs, then you have mental illness. So there are days that you wake up, you're not feeling yourself particularly like at 100%, but you're not sick. And that's physical health and mental health. There are days you wake up and your emotions are not entirely in the right order or the place you want them, because too many things are going on. Mental illness only comes when your coping resources have been fully depleted and you are in a place where you are not coping and you're struggling. That's when we say somebody has mental illness. And there are different kinds of mental illness and they present in different ways. The good news, however, is that these things can be managed.
Okay, thank you for that. We will come back and talk about the different types of mental illness, just so people can have a sense, right? Because it's not like a one-size-fits-all. I want to come to you, Lady Anne, because you've been doing this for a couple of years, where you got this itch and decided you were going to start understanding this mental health and mental wellness space. Stigma is a big thing. People don't talk about it even when they're struggling because they're afraid of how people will judge them. In what ways, as you've gone on this journey of interacting with other people or through the summits that you've done in the past, does stigma show up within our cultural context?
I think it shows up very largely. And in fact, I run the risk of stigma sitting here.
Okay.
But I think that we need to make a change. It's important for us to have these conversations. It's important that policy is generated around these types of things. I'll give you a simple example as to when we found out about this illness or this condition. You have people saying that, oh, you can't even say that's happening. Oh, don't even think that. How can you even, oh no. That's it. So immediately pushing it under the rug. And my response will be, it's okay for me to know that. It's better that I know that and have a solution for it than to assume that there's nothing going on. Imagine, I've already been assuming there's nothing going on or not known that there's nothing going on for 20 years. Yeah. Why live like that? When we are in 2025 and you can find solutions for problems and live a better life.
Yeah.
and even more so, teach other people and have a new generation that knows better and will do better.
So staying on stigma for you, what are the biggest markers and what are the biggest kinds of stigma that your patients and your clients deal with?
Well, I think it's largely the societal perception of what it is to have mental illness and people's own wrong perceptions of what mental illness is and where it stems from. You know, from a historical standpoint, mental illness had largely been seen as spiritual, has largely been seen as the something you did for which it was kind of sprinkled on you. And so when people have mental health,
So we're back to the spiritual bit.
exactly. So when people have mental health related issues, the concept is getting closer to those people in themselves predisposes you. And I keep telling people I've been working in this field for over 15 years.
You would have never a patient by now.
You know,
But isn't there some predisposition that could happen from a mimicking behavior perspective?
well, we call it folie à deux. It's a doctor's disease for people who have mental health challenges. It's like you interact with them so much, and then you can pick it up.
Yes.
Now, reality is this. Thank God for information, because in the past, the kind of acceptance of mental health services has changed significantly from when I started to practice to where we are now.
True.
So I know something is changing. I know information is going out there. I see corporates jumping on the bandwagon. I see educational institutions, and everybody seems to now understand to a larger extent what mental health and mental illness is. Okay. And that distinction is what is killing the stigma. Okay. Now, for me, the stigma seems to stem significantly from the perception of what causes mental illness.
Okay.
And now that we have more information, and we're able to show certain things. For instance, when we do all these brain imaging, and you're able to tell someone it's because this part of the brain is compromised, and they can see it in real time, it changes that view of you've been zapped into, okay, so something...
Or you've been sprinkled.
You've been sprinkled into you can actually do something about it. And to a large extent, I think all the actors in the mental health space have either changed the narrative or have made worse the narrative. Okay. That is my personal stance. In Ghana, for instance, many of our mental health professionals are young and they are cool. So there's more adoption, or people tend to I've got a therapist, because that person is also seen to be cool. Yeah. In comparison to what it might have been in the past, where professionals, they would say they are a little queer, they are weird. Yeah. They are by themselves. So there is a part that we play on an individual level and a part that we play on a societal level that would either make stigma go up or come down.
Got it. Okay. I want to come back to the conversation around the different types of mental illness. Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about how they present. And the reason is there are certain kinds of mental illness that are not always overt. The person is not dirty walking on the street. And so you might not always be able to say, this person might be struggling with this. So if we could go through just a few of them.
Absolutely.
And just say to us, maybe this might be how it might be showing up. That could be helpful.
Awesome. So, mental health looks at thinking and feelings, essentially. So if you look at many of the disorders, they're either related to thinking. And so when I say thinking, for context, is what we would consider normal behavior is what thinking is. Now, we tend to call those psychotic disorders. So, for example, when you hear about schizophrenia, delusional disorders, they all fall within that one that relates to thinking. Okay. Now, in many psychotic disorders, there are a few things that we're looking for. One that stands out is hallucinations.
Okay.
So hallucinations are usually localized to our senses. So it's probably seeing things that other people cannot see,
Okay.
hearing voices other people cannot hear, smelling things other people can't smell,
Okay.
feeling tactile stimulations around your body, even though there seems to be nothing. That's one thing. Now, we also have delusions. Now, delusions are strongly held beliefs that people have. And even when you present information against it, it still doesn't make sense. For instance, I always talk about this client of mine who had a delusion that his wife was cheating.
Okay.
To the point that if they went to a restaurant and the waiter opened the door and said, "Hello, you are welcome," his response would be, so
You know this way.
now this is, you are doing it in front of me. That's a delusion. Regardless
Wow.
of the information they have, it still doesn't make sense. Now, in the corporate, I always talk about this. People have this, maybe it's not a delusion, but I'm going to use it in this context to say, people are working against me. And that's a paranoid delusion.
Okay.
The belief that, people are against you or people are plotting against you or planning to put you down is also a kind of delusion. And sometimes they have no evidence for it. In an actual delusion, there will be no evidence for it. So that's how delusions are. They are thinking related challenges that even when you present information around, they'll say no. So these two things are, we look out for them a lot when we're dealing with thinking related disorders. And these would normally mean some significant presentation. Now, on the other side of feelings, I'm sure people have heard about depression, people have heard about bipolar, people have heard about anxiety. And all of these have to do with emotions. So in depression is the emotion of sadness. In bipolar is the emotion of sadness and excessive happiness. In anxiety is the emotion of fear. Now, just because you mentioned, if anybody has this challenge where they're consistently worried about what could go wrong, even
Like
when
an anxiety disorder of sorts.
that's an anxiety disorder in a sense, but they are worried about everything and anything that could go wrong, even though things are going perfect. So it's the fear of my children could get in danger. Even if they are not in danger, something would go wrong in my life. Someone would shame me. I just can't stand in front of a group of people and speak because if I do and I make a mistake, it might mean one thing or the other. All these are signs that someone's going through some significant form of anxiety. Now, let me come to the issue of depression. So in depression, you have people who are going through bouts of downward spirals of emotions.
Okay.
So they just don't feel any sense of happiness. And depression usually comes with feelings of hopelessness. So when they look at the future, there's nothing better that will ever happen. It comes with feelings of worthlessness. So I don't think I value to anything. And that's what usually pushes those suicidal ideations. I mean, if I'm worth nothing, why am I even staying here? Now, in extreme cases, especially in women when they have just had children, and that's something many people don't talk about. Some women go on to develop what we call postpartum depression. And within the common presentation, I hear a lot of people without insight say things like, are you the only person who's had a child? You want pampering, you want attention. But the reality is, there is no energy. Like in depression, the person would want to get up and do the things that everyone is doing, but there's no motivation or energy. They are consistently tired. The things they used to enjoy in the past, they can no longer enjoy. And if you can imagine someone going through this spiral, that can be weird. In bipolar, all the signs of depression are there, coupled with another episode of extreme excitement where the person is full of energy, they can barely sleep, they are engaging in risky behaviors, sometimes promiscuity, as it were. They are just disinhibited. And then the tendency for them to use illicit drugs, substances, go and get a tattoo or a piercing are also high because, they're just in that state of excitement. If they are talking to you, they'll sell you 1 million ideas in 10 seconds. I want to do this and I want to do this. We call those like a flight of ideas and all of that. So they are all like different kinds of mental health related disorders. Now they can occur together or they can occur in isolation. I must quickly add that, see, when you look at age, different ages open people up to different kinds of psychological related disorders. So in children, you may hear attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, you may hear autism spectrum disorders. When you move into older age, you might hear things related to dementias.
Yes.
And so age as a factor can even open you up to a mental health related disorder. And nobody goes to say, I went to the market and I picked this one up. There are risk factors that we all experience that can predispose us or make it exhibit themselves.
Okay. So I thank you for that. And I have some other disorders I want to come to. But we've had Lady Anne who's been a little too quiet. and I need to get some stuff out of her.
Awesome.
So I'll come back to the different types of disorders. I want to talk a bit about support systems with you. What is the support infrastructure that, in your experience and based on what you've been exposed to, needs to be built around when someone we care about is struggling? What is needed to support them?
So, even as Dr. Seth was speaking, it just kept coming to my mind that imagine living like this. Imagine living with conditions like this the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And so to answer the question in terms of support systems, I think the first and most important one is education, insight, availability of the resources for people to know the different conditions. And that is why one of the main pillars of Wholesome Mind, just making it easily accessible to see a psychologist in so many different ways. Now, my experience going through that situation, I think we were very fortunate. Everyone we met, from the doctors to the nurses, were so passionate about mental health. I mean, the first person in the entire scenario or condition we had to deal with, Dr. Seth. I mean, you can't get us.
We just need to go and buy him a trophy and shine it and give it to him.
Yes.
We're buying you a trophy.
I
I
don't think you can find another Dr. Seth anywhere.
Say that again.
I don't think you can find any Dr. Seth anywhere. Another Dr. Seth
Understood.
anywhere. And even the nurses. So there are some individuals or mental health professionals that are passionate about it and are willing to help and available, to give that insight and education throughout the process. But I think the institutions, the hospitals, we're fortunate to be in Korle Bu Melody, which was okay. I think the OPD was renovated recently. And that was my first time. It's interesting because everything I've gone through has been my first time of experiencing it. And then
So you never went there when it was the old OPD. No. Some of us went there, 2011, when it was just that long.
So when I entered, this is not bad. And somebody said
you wouldn't have said that
before. Okay.
Yeah.
But, upon entering Accra Psychiatric Hospital for the first time, and that was because Mental Health Authority, because we had partnered with them, the summit the year before, they have the Show Your Love campaign that they do where on the 14th of February every year, they take chocolates to their patients and the staff at the different mental institutions to give them chocolate and show your love. They wrote to us and said, well, we know you're advocates of mental health, so we're doing this and let's partner and go there. So I thought, I'd like to go there myself and see what the place looks like. I was devastated.
Yeah.
There was a particular ward, which is a special ward. And going through the ward, so the whole place has been set up as a maze so that when you go in, you can't find your way out.
Yeah.
Because it was built in 1905 and built as a prison to take mental health, mental ill patients off the street away from society. So they are kept there so they can't run away. And so the entire place and has been run down. I mean, trying to be diplomatic, politically correct. Not that the caretakers haven't taken care of the place.
If you can't sustain a certain
Yes.
level of care.
Yes. But I think it's because our society is not giving more attention to the illness. And there has to be some change. I mean, the same way we give attention to our physical health, that's the same way we have to give attention to our mental health. You know, so I think the physical structures, we need more help with that. The inside and the stigma, it just needs to go away. These are, I think, the three main areas that.
Any additions for you?
No, I think she said it all. That's the reality.
Okay. All right. I think for me, the last one would be the family support structure as a big one.
In fact, you would be blessed if you find out of a condition, a mental illness condition, a mental health condition. You'll be blessed to have a good support system. And I think we were blessed with that.
Yeah.
I think that makes a huge change.
Yeah.
Because when you have family and friends who are immediately rallying, and even with this initiative, wanting to run with you, to raise that awareness, you know, so that you can drive that change, it helps.
Yeah.
But I also think that one other aspect that we forget to do is actually sit back and assess our own emotions during the process. And from having this conversation, it's just dawning on me that we really do need to also going through it and giving that person the care they need. You also need to be taken care of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you cannot pour out of an empty glass.
Yeah.
Because it does take quite a bit out of you. So there needs to be those moments of understanding what it is, but also almost regrouping and refilling, if you may call it
Yeah.
that. Okay. Thank you. I'm coming back to the different kinds of mental illness. Because it's plenty.
Oh, there are plenty.
So I would say we've talked a bit about the different mood disorders a little. So we've talked a bit about depression. We've talked a bit about being bipolar. And then we've talked a bit about anxiety. So there's the anxiety pieces. Can we go a bit into the different psychotic disorders, because there are quite a few of those, and then maybe we can talk about eating disorders, because there's some of them that you don't see, like eating disorders. It's not always easy to know that this is some kind of mental illness. So maybe let's do those two, and then we'll see how that goes.
So, the reality about psychotic disorders is you look out for the key variables are the delusions, the anxiety, something we call catatonic behavior. Catatonic behavior has to do with, it's a movement-related disorder or posture. So especially with people who abuse drugs, you might notice someone assume a certain position like this and they stay there. That's some form of catatonic behavior. Now, when we are assessing that kind of behavior, we might attempt to, like poke someone's eye. Naturally, you blink, but in catatonic behavior, really no. Or you might ask them to pull out their tongue and attempt to strike it with a needle, and nothing will happen. So that's one of those signs that we also look out for. Now, I like to, it's a little difficult because to talk about the very specific types of psychotic disorders can be confusing.
Because there are overlaps in how they present.
So that's why I want to, for the unaided eye or for the lay person, the most important thing to look out for is the delusions, the hallucinations, the catatonic behavior, and then we have a number of what we call thought-related disorders.
Okay.
For instance, I might see Lady Anne and say, "What is your name?" And then she'll say, "On a bright summer afternoon, on the 29th of 1874, the family of brought to
Kodimo.
this world a princess who thrived." You know, they'll
It's an elaborate story
before
surrounding the name.
they say, "My name is Lady Anne."
Yes.
That's what we call being circumstantial or circumstantiality. It's a thought related. Or there are people that you ask a question, "What's your name?" They'll talk about everything except their name that's being tangential. You have people who may have a thought disorder where they're using a whole, like a random string of big words. You know, they're amphibulate dichotomy. Even dichotomy is a word, but they're amphibulate ontology of dacoracy. And you are like, wow, this person is learning, you know. Those are all problems. We call them neologisms. They are making words on their own. So we're looking for these thought disorders also as a part of saying that. And every diagnosis is made up of a number of specific symptoms that are outlined in the diagnostic and statistical manual for mental illness. But for psychotic disorders, you want to be sure that you can see. And those ones you can see quickly are the hallucinations. Someone is, you know, they are sitting and then they are talking in the air. You don't see, but they are actively responding to
something.
someone. And that is something that you can see and say, okay, there's a problem here. Or, you know, they're walking and they're saying, "Don't worry me," because they're hearing voices you can't hear. Or they're scratching themselves, and those ones you can see. So I would say and because you mentioned schizoaffective has to do with there's the delusion and the affective disorder, which is those that have to do with feelings. So, for example, someone has a schizophrenia, they also have a depression. They would normally fall within schizoaffective, or they have a bipolar together with a psychotic disorder would fall in that component of disorder. That's how I think it's important for the layperson.
No, understood.
Yes,
Understood.
I don't want anyone to be.
No, I'll give an example that just crossed my mind. When you think about, there's so many personality disorders, right?
Good.
And we've all become diagnosis of narcissists and avoidance. We all say, he's avoidant, or she's narcissistic,
Yeah.
right? So that's a whole group of it, right? But there's certain things that might make you say that this person might have some kind of personality disorder.
Absolutely.
So I don't need you to go into the detail, but it's just what are some of the broad markers
Definitely.
that might show that somebody might have a personality disorder or somebody might be struggling with something. Let's talk a bit about eating disorders.
Okay, so you know, in eating disorders, I want to start from the ones that occur during childhood,
Okay.
which is that urge to eat even meals that are non-nutritious. We call that disorder pica.
Yeah.
So the child just likes to eat like clay, sand, feces, things like that. They are non-nutritious, but there's this urge. It's almost like an addiction of some sort.
I have pica.
You do?
I eat ice and I like sand. Am I crazy?
You have to come and pee.
But it's been linked to I'm anemic all the time. So the ice is linked to
Now
me
you're
being
talking.
anemic.
So pica is linked very much to what they call an iron deficiency.
An iron
so
deficiency.
in many cases, they give iron tablets as a treatment to
So
pica.
I'm not crazy.
Oh no.
Not yet.
So, but how does the sun come in though?
So it's like it's ayelo. You know ayelo?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I like the smell
Smell.
of rain.
Okay.
So when it rains, I'm like, I wish I could eat
A
that.
little
I mean,
bit.
I won't eat it, but
okay.
I like the smell
Okay,
of it.
okay. Good.
And then I
But
like.
you actually don't eat sand.
No, I don't eat sand. No,
Okay.
but there are
Because
people
you know
who
there
eat
are
it.
people who
Yes,
eat it.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
That would be
Yeah,
pica.
yeah.
Now, the classic, eating disorders are what you hear being anorexic. We technically call anorexia nervosa, and then its brother or sister is the bulimia nervosa. So, in both of them, it's the fear of gaining weight.
Okay.
That's where it is. So sometimes I say it's an anxiety disorder of sorts.
Correct.
And the fear of gaining weight means I'm extremely careful about what I consume because I'm afraid to gain weight. So in anorexia, there's a total restriction of what they eat entirely. Somebody may go to the supermarket and they be checking calories 12 calories. Okay.
I can eat 5 of these 12.
Beautiful. Somebody
Only.
becomes a gym rat. So I'm going to the gym all the time because I'm not trying to gain weight. Sometimes within our context, we notice that many people with the anorexias would consistently say they are fasting. They are praying to God, 40 days dry fast. How do you say that it's a challenge? Because realistically, I'm dry fasting, but then we come to notice that the dry fasting becomes too consistent. And it is linked to the weight gain that they have. So, and most of the time when people start to comment about their weight, they'll start wearing oversized clothes so you don't actually see what's going on. Now, you see, in bulimia, which is the other side, they would eat.
And then,
But right after they eat, they engage in a compensatory behavior to take out the effects of what they've eaten. So they might go and induce themselves to vomit, to throw up the food, or they might go and gym, excessive workouts or excessive fasting routines. But the fear is about gaining weight related to eating.
Okay.
So that's how we normally would look at these.
okay. All right. Okay. The last one I thought we could talk about would be substance-related and addictive disorders, which you and I like to talk about often.
Oh, yes.
And then maybe the older age. We've talked about that already. So
Yeah,
that's
we
the
have.
yes. So
Yeah.
the last one is just substance, and then we
Okay.
move on.
Well, let's not just say substance. Let's say addictive behaviors.
Addictive, yes.
And
Yes.
typically,
True, because we should think about addictive behaviors, not just
exactly as a substance. And of course, I think that majority of our population now is addicted to something.
the phone. You're going to
The phone, of course. Thing about addictive behaviors is there are two broad categories. The behavioral ones that have to do with gambling, sex, porn addiction, shopping, and then the chemical addictions that are related to using some substance, which could be as simple as caffeine to excessive as red in Ghana now, or the cocaine, the meth, etc., etc. The thing about addictive behaviors, as I've always said, is anything you find enjoyable can become addictive.
True.
And especially when that behavior becomes a coping to other struggles of life, we are in trouble. Now, in the neuroscience of addiction, all of this is localized to something called dopamine. So dopamine is the molecule of motivation for humans. So whenever you are engaged in anything, dopamine is released to, like, for example, as we do this, by the time we're done, we'll all be feeling, we've accomplished something. That's dopamine. Saying, remember
We
to
deserve the
you
watching.
deserve the watching. Good. Kind of like, remember to do this again. You eat, you get to, you eat food, dopamine is released. Remember to do it again. You have sex, dopamine is released. Remember to do this again. In this case, it's just for propagation of the species. Still survival. So in essence, many of the rewards that the brain gives us is to give us some kind of safety. Then human beings found a crafty way to get the brain to release this motivation molecule without any lesson attached. And the body gives you that molecule in, say, in a single thought. So it gives you like a glass of dopamine at every time.
Yeah.
Now, the addictive behaviors gives you a barrel
Yeah.
of the same dopamine. So at some point now, your brain enjoys
Saturated.
without any lesson attached.
Yeah.
And the moment you decide, I can't do this anymore, the brain's like, no.
You can't.
At this point where you brought me, I'm not going to let you go. So it punishes you. So you see, in the beginning, it's for enjoyment. At some point, the brain is so used to the enjoyment that your baseline, which for everybody will be here, your baseline is here. So you need this level before you can function. So now people are chasing the excitement, but the excitement they are chasing, they can never get.
Yeah.
So to feel normal, they must engage in the addictive behavior. And if they are not able to engage in the behavior, the brain punishes them. So I always tell people whenever I talk about addictions, addiction is not a moral flaw. It's not a willpower related issue. It's a brain disorder. The structure of the brain has actually modified. I create this analogy. If you're somebody who goes to the gym a lot and you start to build a lot of muscle, you consume more food as well. Now, if you stop gymming, your body is still used to the amount of food that you typically consume. Same thing happens in addictions. So even when you decide to get out of the behavior, the brain is used to a certain amount of dopamine that if it doesn't get, it will push you. And the edge it creates, the discomfort, is what will usually push you to go and use that substance or to engage in the behavior. So if you take the distinction between chemical and behavioral addictions, is the effect of the chemical on the body. But the other mechanisms are the same across board.
As you listen to all of this, how are you feeling?
It's actually making me happy because I'm learning more.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot more that we need to do, because having this knowledge is so much power.
It's true.
Imagine, having a condition like anorexia and you just want to lose weight. Yeah, recently there's this injection and pill.
Ozempic.
Yeah.
Weight loss is hard for a lot of people.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Very hard for a lot of
Yes.
people.
Comes to my resilience issue,
It comes to your resilience
Yeah.
issue.
as usual.
And so I think with the brain, it's just about disciplining it, right? Because if, like you were saying, your brain is used to something. So there are people who drink coffee. If they don't get coffee a day, they get a headache.
Good.
Or they buzz, or they feel
Yes.
they don't feel themselves.
And I know a number of people
Yeah.
who have that. And they had to go, those who wanted to stop taking coffee had to go about a week and get a headache for a long time.
There you go.
And then they stopped completely.
Yeah.
But knowing this information, you also go back to thinking, well, yes, I know they say death is part of life, but in the short life that you have, what is it that you want to do? What type of quality of life do you want? And that's where mental health comes in. That's why this information is so important, because if you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
And you can live a much more quality life, that you can leave a legacy. And I mean, those are one of my core principles in life, that I cannot die tomorrow and there's nothing that I'll go and show for. Go and tell God, I didn't do anything. Life just passed. I mean, we cannot live that way.
I tell lots of people, when it comes to addiction, an inoculation against addiction is based on the same resilience principle. Difficult training, easy battle. So when I find that there's something I'm
So
enjoying,
will we ever talk and not talk about resilience?
it's not possible.
Okay.
It's not possible. So it's like this. Anything I enjoy, when I'm enjoying it so much, as a measure of my own resilience, I decide, let me not enjoy it for some time.
Discipline.
And by doing that, what you're doing is you are
Adulting.
taking charge and you're not allowing it
Yeah.
to control you. Because an addiction basically takes your own control away. I did this with my son a lot. He plays video games. He's enjoying the game. I turn it off. And then he'll get into a meltdown. But I've done it so much that now, when you say turn it off, he just turns it off. It's no longer a big
Yeah,
deal.
whatever.
Beautiful. So there is actually control that you can exert. So if you're someone who deals with, you're enjoying things too much, sometimes stay away from the thing you enjoy. And can even be a romantic partner. The tension that you endure will build you in a certain way. Resilience.
Resilience.
As I'm listening to this conversation, the emotion I feel is there's so much out there. And it's good that you start from someone. It's like this big elephant. And we need to start feeling it from different parts, right? And there's so much knowledge. You won't get all of that, but bit by bit, you start the conversation, one conversation at a time. Before we wrap up this part of this conversation, you are in the field. What is the state of mental health in Ghana today? One, from a people perspective, and two, from a support system from the healthcare institutions perspective. And then me as a lay woman, I will share my point of view. Because I have one.
I will defend my people.
I know that's where you're going, but this one, don't worry. I'll be gentle.
So basically, looking at where mental health started, I mean, way before we were in the field.
Yeah.
It was a highly specialized field
Yes.
in three specialist hospitals, which is Ankafo, Pantai, and then Accra Psychiatry.
Yes.
Today, what has happened? There are psychiatry units in most regional and district hospitals, which is that they are decentralizing mental health. That's one thing. Korle Bu, Komfo Anokye, Rage all have psychologists and mental health professionals, so the field is expanding. Now, in the immediate past, the number of professionals were basically nothing. But today we have at least, in terms of psychologists, we have one psychologist is to 400,000 people of the population. In comparison to one is to 1 million a few years ago. And psychiatrists also. We're getting far. We've gone far. If you look at the infrastructure in Korle Bu, which is the Melody, I always tell people that's what you call mental health through architecture. And I think it destigmatizes the field even further. Because those days, there were many people who were very apprehensive of coming to Korle Bu.
They didn't have problems. That they wanted to solve.
but now you see the difference. A number of phenomenal things happened in mental health, I think, last year. One of them was decriminalization of suicide, which was spearheaded by mental health professionals. And the second one was also the inclusion of some mental health condition into the National Health Insurance. So if you ask me about the state of mental health, we are moving forward.
We are moving forward.
We're not where we used to be. There's still so much to do, but we're doing a great job so far.
So I'll respond to that, then we'll come to where people are.
Okay.
So I couldn't agree more. And I say I couldn't agree more because I've had a very close family member who struggled with mental health since 2013. And I've been one of the core primary caregivers for this person. And so the visits to Korle Bu I've done. And my first therapist was in Korle Bu. And the first time I went into a therapist's office would have been 2012. No, I tell a lie. 2009.
Wow.
And this was in the former Melody.
Not what I went to see.
That was mellow without the D.
Right? Where you go in and there's half sitting here, and there's a big space in between. But it was always the need was always far greater than, what the optics were, right? But I think that what always stood out for me was the passion and the people. And God bless her, Dr. Avasi Fadidi, amazing human. Never my therapist, but supported my family member. And I remember how much care she would even show when she herself was dealing with her own health. And I didn't even know she was dealing with her own health at the time, right? So when you think about the professionals themselves and the level of care that they would show, visits to Pantang, that you could tell the infrastructure wasn't great, but even the nurses, there would be the odd nurse who is not very great, but there's always, you could tell that the people who had chosen to do that had chosen to do it.
Absolutely.
But the infrastructure was always poor.
True.
The part that was also sometimes a challenge was when someone comes into such a space, they themselves are already struggling. They are already in a bit of a state.
And so the system needs to be one that is easy to navigate, and it's not always easy to navigate. But I think it has gotten better because I've been doing it for a long time, so I get that, right? So on that, I'm talking about as a user and the user experience, progress, but also thinking about it as from the perspective of just even, like you're saying, decriminalizing suicide.
Yes.
It makes a big difference because even for families who've dealt with that, it's easier to even have the conversation and have it differently.
Yeah.
So, progress.
Progress.
And I have this new thing that I say, progress over perfection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So one day
What
at
are
a
the
time.
little steps
The little steps.
towards the bigger goal?
Okay. Your thoughts on how people are dealing with mental health and their mental health and their mental well-being and mental illness.
So, in my opinion, also because I am an employee assistance professional, is I've noticed how many corporates are investing in mental health today.
True.
Because they've come to understand how just simply managing someone's stress can be the game changer into whether they develop a significant mental health related issue or not.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of conversation. I want to applaud the Mental Health Authority. There's so many initiatives that they've taken up, Purple Month, Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and you have these flyers going out every day about something you can do to keep your mental health in check. And this is something that's being done in Ghana. Now, over the world, they're also celebrating so many things in mental health. And the research that is coming up now is telling us that even for physical health, about 70% of people that go to see a GP for a physical health related issue is actually emotional health related. So it's all about the awareness. And this is why I believe so much in the wholesome mind, because we're putting it out there and saying mental health is much more than what you think. People think about it, which is the illness. It's broader than that. Last year, for example, when we had this, our focus was on workplace mental health. And it's just important to know that there's someone at work that you see that triggers you every day, but you might not even acknowledge it. And I always paint this picture of you sit in a car, you're going through traffic, you're already stressed out. So the stress, number one. You see the office building and you go, oh God, another day. Stress
here
number
again.
2. And then you get in there and then you see that one person who just triggers you all the time. And then when you close and you are coming home, you go back into the traffic, you get home and you come and meet Marijata at home. So stress as a concept is something we can never avoid, but managing it is powerful. So prevention is better than cure. And the modern concept of health is all on prevention. So there's still so much work to be done, but I suppose that people who have more information are doing a lot and they are prioritizing. Thankfully, the things you need to do to curb your mental health are free and they're easy to do. Sleep, exercise, connecting with people, making time for hobbies, and asking for help.
Pretty easy.
Do you want to comment on the states that people are in?
I think that even from championing mental health awareness now, I've come to find out that there are a lot more people who are dealing with mental health conditions than we know or that the public is aware of. And so it just makes me even more confident in the fact that there really is a lot more that we need to do. Last year, or 2 years ago, there wasn't one person that I spoke to about the wholesome mind who didn't know one person dealing with a mental health condition. And I spoke to a lot of people. I was surprised, just going through this whole, the motions of organizing summit. I just sat back and I said, wow, there's really a lot that we need to do. So I think we're taking it one day at a time, but we do have to, the impact is key. So we just try to have that impact, make that impact happen. Okay. Yeah.
our world has changed a lot. And the things that are meant to connect us are just taking us further apart. So those social connections you talked about, we don't have them as much as we used to have them. The things that are meant to make our lives easier and make work more efficient, we've become slaves to some of those things, like the phone, social media. And I find that stress has become, maybe because of information overload, I don't know what it is, or the constant comparison, and just so many things. Like, our lives are in this hyper overdrive that we never used to have. Like, I watch my parents and I watch my parents' friends when I was younger in the 80s, and I don't think their lives were that complicated. And even they had some level of stress. But our levels of stress are off the charts today. So definitely this is important. It's important to take out the stigma. It's important to encourage people to ask for help. It's important to understand the structure that we need to put in place to drive the change that needs to be driven. It's important to get like the things we need to put in place to support mental health to facilitate better mental health for people, and to empower people to speak up, make it something that people are, willing to talk about without, worrying about what will someone say, and share personal stories and influence policy like you talked about. So thank you for this conversation, this first part of the conversation. We're now going to dig into the next part, where we will talk about the Wholesome Mind Summit.
Absolutely.
So, even though we are having a long conversation that we're splitting in two, because we're splitting it in two, we've decided that we'll give ourselves a break and have a cocktail.
I agree.
At Seth's insistence, if I may say. Why are you making it seem like you had nothing to do with this?
The reality is, as a mental health advocate and professional,
Take a break.
take a break. Take a break.
All right, so
Yes.
to what is usually the fun part of this, but we are taking a break to have some fun. It's a cocktail. The only requirement is that you taste it and you tell me one thing that you taste. Seth, you're excused from duty today. Just drink. This is between Lady
Thank
Anna.
you very much.
Okay.
Okay, but stir it up.
Cheers.
Stir it up. There we go.
15 flavors. Coconut.
You're excused though.
He's excused. I don't even know why he's getting involved in this.
I definitely taste.
Okay.
And coconuts.
Coconut. Stir it up.
Yes,
There we go.